Okay, you're in the way. I'm being very rude. There we go.
I have to say that of the many parts of that universe, you know, I understand it in like an objective sense, but I find it difficult to understand how people want to play factions in 40k that are not the orcs, because they are very clearly the only people having any fun in the entire universe.
Well, that's what weirds me out.
Do it this way.
The 40k orcs are like they remind me of Magic the Gathering goblins. They're basically just like hordes and hordes of crazy inventors that are using their most ridiculous contraptions possible to try to wage war, and it almost never works and gets all of them killed, but they all kind of love it anyway. Like, there's something adorable about that.
Yeah.
Whoop.
I mean, orcs are the player. You know, on some level, they're good. They're really just doing this because they enjoy the actual exercise of combat, and they prefer to win, and they're going to try really hard to win, but at the end of the day, it's worth it even if they don't. That's the orcs. There's a perfect sympathy between the goal of an orc player and the goal of the orcs he plays as.
So here's the other question. At this point, has Warhammer 40k's like novels and other material kind of completely outstripped the people who actually play the tabletop game? Because I almost never hear it talked about as like a thing that we go and play tabletop games with. It's almost always like, oh yeah, this novel came out, or this video game.
Well, you know, the investment to get into the 40k novels is like, you know, $5 in library fees. The investment to get into the tabletop game is several $1,000s, so...
Yeah.
That's not literally true. You could get started in the game, conceivably, for like a few hundred.
Isn't it one of those games that actually really does, like, even more than like D&D or whatever, really require miniatures? Like, it's a miniature-driven game.
It is the miniatures. The miniatures are absolutely essential. If you don't have miniatures, in theory, you could use some kind of proxy, but it's almost universally agreed that you shouldn't. They have a pretty good racket going.
An explosion.
I actually know a guy who was in a car crash and lost thousands of dollars worth of wargaming miniatures.
That
Many
really
thousands.
sucks. So this, I think we have to go around the other way to get that. That's cool. Alright. So you can't hear it, Rutskarn, but there's a bunch of rumbling in the background that sounds ominous right now, so...
Okay, I will be filled with malaise.
And then we're going to get to the rumbling and be exceptionally disappointed.
If you can't get your own malaise, store-bought is fine.
It's basically a garage door that won't open.
Oof. Just sent a shiver up my spine.
Well, I mean, there's a robot outside.
Another explosion.
Ah, cutscene. I probably should have gotten the Karja Blazon armor for this, because having a lot of fire resistance against this guy is really funny.
Yep.
So, this is a Deathbringer. And, like, we're supposed to be at this fight at, like, level 15, and we're, like, level 35, so, this thing is, like, intentionally half broken right now. I'm not even gonna bother with stealth. I'm just gonna run out here and fucking kill it.
Can I get some kind of, like... some kind of disambiguation for all things that are called Deathbringer?
No.
Hitting that thing really hurt it. Steam's blasting out.
Well, on the one hand, they do have several hundreds of millions of dollars of pre-apocalypse technology, which is all focused to a single destructive purpose. Built to withstand even the leviathans of its own time, let alone the crude atavistic struggles and tools of these primitive peoples. But on the other hand, you can roll.
Yes.
They didn't program for that.
People had not yet discovered how to Dark Souls roll, which is
It's one of those
why
things
these
where
things were so much more effective in the past.
it's one of those lost arts from prehistory.
So normally when you fight these things, for all the like 4 fights of these things there are in the, actually I think there's only 3, you're supposed to overheat them by firing fire at them to get those to appear, but in this one, that one's like busted, so those just appear normally for no reason, and it makes the whole fight really, really easy.
That was like a dozen arrows.
I mean, yeah.
That's really sad.
Would you stop shooting fire at me, please?
We're way over
No
level
ammo.
for this.
Hang on a minute.
You know what? Proper respect. Proper respect to that asshole just shooting fire arrows at you.
I missed
He
him
saw
twice.
what happened. He was here for the whole thing. He's shooting fire arrows at you. What's going
Fucking
through his head right now? Well, your arrow,
ancient
but
super gun tank gets killed by someone with like arrows, and it's just like, okay, well, I'll be the one to kill him.
your buddy's like, oh, I'm gonna shoot her.
Those things
You're like, what the?
punch.
No, don't. What?
That Eclipse officer had a focus. Let's see what's on it.
That rat is a nice touch.
Yeah. They're actually all over the place in this area.
Yeah.
In the middle of, like, winter, which is, I guess, a little odd.
Yep.
I don't know why I'm bothering even to loot these people. It's not worth it. Man, we really fucked you up, didn't we?
Yeah.
I mean, it was already broken, so...
Funny what like a pound of metal can do, but delivered at the end of several
Probably
sticks.
less than a pound.
Probably less than a pound of metal.
Let's see what you have to say.
Something important must have just happened because your controller squeaked.
Ah, it's red.
What is this?
The blood of an angry man.
This unacceptable. Unacceptable.
Imagine the Borg
Unacceptable.
are saying
Yeah,
this right
I
now.
was.
It's not really Borg, that's more, Doctor Who villains. Daleks. Unacceptable?
What?
Or maybe Lemongrab.
That's not at
That's
all
really
what they sounded like. What are you fucking...
Hey!
Chris, you could just tell me it sounds like anything you
Mysterious
want.
stranger.
I'll believe
Did
you.
you see that?
It sounds like Lemongrab. Just picture Lemongrab saying unacceptable.
You know what? I have actually not seen Adventure Time.
Damn it.
Yeah.
I actually just started watching it, like, last week, so I'm only, like, part of the way through season 1, and I'm going, like, so when does this thing become, like, really good, like I've heard?
Oh shit.
Oh,
I
you're
thought
gonna
I was
get
getting
some
into
angry
trouble
comment.
talking about the 40K fascism comparisons. Oh boy.
Man, I watched the season finale for that, and I
Genetic
sobbed.
profile confirmed. Entry authorized.
Because I'm old,
Greetings,
and I
Dr.
remember that
Silver.
movie.
Please step inside.
So this is important.
The
Neat.
end.
Roll credits. That sounds like a Dalek.
510 days overdue for your meeting with Mr. Farrell. Please proceed to the 35th floor.
Wait.
Now you can go ahead and do math on that, but I'll just go ahead and short circuit it. Oh,
Thanks
fuck.
for the invitation.
It's been about 1,000 years.
Okay.
And I point that out because it will become more explicit later, so like, why bother waiting? I don't. Where am I supposed to? Oh, I was supposed to be down there actually. So. So this is our first of one of I think 4 exposition dungeons where we're just doing this and
Oh,
playing
boy.
audio stuff. You might want to actually bring the stream up and listen to this.
I can just you know what? I'm just imagining the voices myself.
You don't call something you can't crack.
You know, it's very soothing actually. It's a very calm, gentle
goes
voice.
away.
Does not sound like that at all.
Eternal.
Upload the latest service pack update, the problem goes away.
Every protocol court standard. Your words. Look.
Look, if you need me to fudge some projections, it's nothing we haven't done before. I don't need fudge projections. I need a way to reassert control of the Heart's Timor swarm.
I don't know what to tell you, Ted.
I don't know what to tell you, Ted. You're asking the impossible. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm terribly sorry. I'm sure I actually just destroyed someone's audio equipment.
Machines.
So when are we gonna do Horizon Zero Dawn, the Abridged series?
You say that, I actually... Okay, if anybody could come up with an ideal suggestion, I'm all ears, because I may actually, like, get off my ass and do this, but... I've done this once before in a professional context, and I would love to do it again. It's actually a lot of fun to take a stodgy AAA video game and do a comedy dub. Where you simply, like, replace all of the meaningless dialogue with things that are funny instead, and just kind of fucking around. I didn't quite do it in that context. It was actually, those of you who followed my Pyrodactyl stuff, they had they had previously made a game called Will Fight for Food, which...
That's where the professional context came in, because I know what you do now, and I'm like, when would you have gotten the opportunity to do that?
Yeah, no, they had a game called Will Fight for Food, which had, which was somewhat comedic. It was wacky, but the storyline actually was surprisingly earnest, and, when they did the remaster, they're like, we kind of just like to replace all of that, actually. Can you do that for us? So basically, it was so much fun. It was probably the most fun professional job I've had. I just went through and I made all of it, like, just... I just replaced all of the dialogue with, like, stupid shit. And it was just completely made all of the characters like my own ridiculous creations, and it was amazing. And I am no judge of my own work, but it's probably my favorite video game writing today.
Feral automated solutions. For every problem of life, a smart
It was a lot of fun.
So they made the focus.
I think my favorite thing, I completely changed one quest, which, spoilers for Will Fight for Food.
Oh, man.
So the premise of the game is that, you lose a championship fight at the beginning for, like, this fighting ring championship, and, then you go around and, like, meet all of your old, like, wrestler buddies, like, your own fighter buddies, and, like, do quests for them, or not. It's your choice. And I invented a couple of details. One of them is that you were not supposed to actually be the champion. You're just like some asshole. And all the fights are rigged so that you win. And one of them is really, one of the fighters, and like you don't take this seriously, so you just like turn into like kind of a drunken like dumbass who just comes in and like fights and like doesn't, like you have a lot of trouble like sort of operating and functioning. And all of the fighters are sort of like tired of this, and even if they like you, really wish you'd get your act together. But one of them is a huge jackass because he's like I could do so much better. I hate you. I just absolutely loathe you. And later in the game, the quest originally is he has his own TV show with his own character, and he wants you to come in and have a cameo on the show where you like fight a bunch of enemies, and it kind of like the puzzle and the fun is that like, oh, instead of you like just getting into a big fight, you have to like not actually defeat the villain, you just have to brawl with the mooks. You have to survive, and you have to deliver, like, appropriate dialogue for your character. And there's, like, a few options, but you need to pick the right ones. And that was the quest straightforwardly, and how I thought it needed, like, an additional feature. And how it is that, like, the quest reward in my version is actually that somehow he got the rights to your character. Like, to who you are. And he's cast you as his idiot sidekick. And so he's basically like, alright, I'll give you the rights back, and I'll help you out with, like, the main quest. If you come on the show and I want you to actually play that character, and I want you to ham it up. I want you to be the dumbest dumbass that ever lived. And he, like, gives you this direction, and your choices are basically, you can try to go with it and, like, play along with him and, like, you know, be the better man and learn, like, humility. Or the other way is that, like, you can deliberately try to mess up his live show as badly as possible.
So, catching us up on the exposition that's been delivered, our mysterious friend uploaded some information about the people being talked about. So we have a bio of Elizabeth Sobek on our focus now. Born March 11th, 2020. And basically she's a child prodigy, roboticist, joined this company and helped them solve global warming, but then left after they pivoted to making military robots. And we've got Ted Farrow, who is the CEO founder of Farrow Automated Solutions, and he's basically Elon Musk and everything that goes along with that statement. History of the company: they solved global warming, and then they became a military robot company.
They sold global warming?
Yeah, no.
They solved global
They
warming.
sold it. They sold it to Mars.
That sounds about like our current system, actually.
Yeah. Definition of a corporation. And
It's actually been very useful for Aloy.
Yep.
Well, that's what I love about that, is it's totally a world-building entry. We don't need it, but she does, and I love that that's there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
It's like, how many arrows does it take to take down a corporation?
Voice line, but maybe not. I guess we'll see. And we also had an audio log where Ted Farrow was, for some reason, in an internal memo, trying to sell everyone on the fact that they're suddenly switching over to doing non-automated war machine stuff for people. So that's interesting. There's a box here full of stuff. But I don't think there's any audio log here. All right. Back upstairs. So I want to point out, this is also a skyscraper, not a basement. We're in the basement, I think, but like, this is a building. A complaint text log that we're not going to read, but basically the guy... There's a fight that broke out at reception, and the guy in charge of sales is like, no, that was intentional to get them to want war machines more. Now shut the fuck up. We fell through the floor.
Looks like I can climb here.
I hate this. This is boring.
Yeah.
Like, the exposition is really good. Like, I love the story that's unraveling around you while you do this, but the act of playing this is just... It's this really purple, dark, follow the yellow lights.
It's a problem with a lot of the lighting of internal spaces in this game, I feel like.
I feel like if people are willing to put up with watching this, and also me wittering on about various old indie projects, I'll go ahead and spare you the creed.
That's the way out. Yeah, okay, so here we go. Let's get to
what it feels
the
like?
fucking meat of this.
It feels like walking around in Deus Ex Invisible War. That's what it feels like.
Yeah.
I never played that game, so...
Oh, I'm old.
Nobody did, really. Actually, I guess quite a few people did, but it's just that any large numbers of players seem inconsequential in this generation. It's like, oh, tens of thousands of people purchased Deus Ex Invisible War. That was impressive.
Maybe it's the Scarab's emergency biomass conversion systems that ensure
So,
it always makes
they made the Corruptor.
even if fuel supply lines have been interdicted. Or maybe it's the Scarab's ability to slave enemy
And they're the
robots
reason it
into
has the ability to override other robots.
force multiplication. Add a prehensile manipulator arm that can handle a host of functions. From 360-degree less lethal riot management to surgical repairs.
Here's a question. If you're Aloy, to what extent do you really care why these killer robots were made?
The Corruptor.
Well,
Slave and
I mean, clearly the information is relevant. So there's that. But setting that aside,
how it corrupts machines.
You know, I feel like, again, to keep it with the game's sort of like mythical, mystic roots, I feel like it's kind of like us playing Doom and learning about like how ancient sacrifices ended up creating the Slayer, right? Like, you don't really care,
Well-
but you're kind of curious.
they kind of put that in. They kind of put that in now that you mention it, yeah.
I mean, this is pretty important, though. Like,
Well, to the
this
story
information's
for us,
more
but
important
not
than it might
for her.
appear. Yeah. Well,
Here's an interesting point, actually. Okay, I have a question for you guys. So just answer this however, like, instinctively it makes sense to you, but what percentage of people who bought Horizon Zero Dawn, of all the people who just bought it wanting to play it on the PS4, actually cared about knowing all this information in any level of detail?
Most of them, probably.
yeah, again, this actually plays into the, like, okay, also they made the Metal Devils.
Yes. It wasn't an
Like,
Egyptian
this
theme.
is actually very relevant. Yeah, well, did you notice the name of the guy who owns the company? Pharaoh.
It's not as bad as Oswald Mandis.
No,
that
it
is
is
the
not.
world
Oh my
record
God.
bad decision.
Oh, the Chinese room.
I just want to say this right now. I'm calling y'all out. My joke at the beginning of that episode did not get enough respect. It all came together. My entire career in that one moment.
Do you think people remember that joke more, or the joke at the very end where you compared it to Bioshock Infinite?
Manufacturing capabilities.
Fuck, I completely forgot I did that.
Make more of themselves. Then how would you ever stop them?
I don't actually watch your own stuff very much.
Should I think I interrupted this one, and, like, I need to get all three of them to finish and have AY say stuff about them, and then, mystery person whose name I know and I'm having to refrain from actually saying because we haven't revealed it in the game yet, for him to pop in and talk about stuff.
Just say Zavala.
Anyway.
It's Zavala.
Anyway, the thing is, I think you guys are probably right about, like, this information ultimately being necessary. But at the same time, the stereotype for AAA video games is that most of the people who play them, it's like they just want the gameplay. They're not paying too much attention to the story. Except, again, I really do feel like this was necessary.
Right.
I feel like there was I'm sure they did it because they wanted to, but I feel like that on some level there was an obligation to have all this stuff explicit, despite its relationship. You could see a way where, at least on an artistic level, if not on a commercial level, they could have gone a direction with it where our understanding of the events prior to the happening really mirror those of someone viewing it from this remote distance, where nothing is really clear and elements don't really cohere, and it's all kind of like a myth and a mystery wrapped into one.
Right.
And even where they're operating, like, narrative of what happened, we can see clearly probably is not, like, factually entirely true, but is kind of their memory of what happened as translated through their context. And yet, I think that even though that would be so much more straightforward on a very basic level to present, I feel like that they couldn't get away with it.
Right.
It would completely elide the need for any exposition done like this. Which actually, I have a sneak suspicion this is also like a gameplay padding thing.
There is an extent of gameplay padding, but I mean, this does need to be delivered somehow.
True. And it's not like, you can put a different team on this stuff, but at the same level, you do need to, like, it's not like no work went into this.
People are rioting outside the company headquarters.
Yeah.
It feels a bit to me like
They blamed this place for something.
you ended up with that situation where this is a level that, was a real writer's room level, and then other levels are more gameplay driven.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huh.
Yeah, I can understand that, because, it's not like this did require a significant investment of development hours, just maybe with different departments.
I could have sworn there was... Maybe it comes up later. I could have sworn there was stuff where he pops in and talks to her now about this.
Also, it's very possible that some of the more crude exposition elements here were repurposed from just world-building documentation, from setting Bibles for internal use.
If you're talking about Lance Reddick, I believe he shows up at the end of this level, not before.
Well, he doesn't know that it's Lance Reddick yet.
I said it's Zavala.
I wasn't
Yeah,
most
but
of the way.
I've been talking over you the whole time.
It's easy.
It's okay. Very little. It's okay. I don't care.
Does that? Can you put that face to that name?
I
You
know.
who
Lance,
it- yeah, okay.
I know Lance Reddick is.
Yeah, and it is him as a mocap model. Like, it is like they basically made the role for him.
Yeah, but which you know, I'm all for people going to ridiculous lengths to give Lance Reddick work.
Where are we? Oh. That was weird. Why? What? Did you see that jump?
No,
You were looking at your phone. God
I
damn it.
was. Yeah.
I saw it.
Honestly, it was a dog picture, and I have no regrets.